I thought it was cool, man. I thought it was cool. If I said anything else, I'd be lying, you know? Damn, man, it was cool and it was special. It was really, it was special. Right out of the gate, if this had been called something else, if it had been called a vulgar tribute or anything else, any other kind of name, wouldn't have gotten the same response. That's a given. That's very obvious. But right from the get-go, because this was called Pantera, it was gonna be huge, enormous, monumental news in the metal world. That's the thing. For metalheads, this was something that was just so goddamn big. It's the same thing as, like, you know, if a new president has been elected, you know, if a new world record was broken in sports, something like that. It was a major like announcement. It was one of those things where, like, you know, people thought, holy shit, wow, there's gonna be some sort of a reformation, a configuration, and it is gonna be known as Pantera. Wow. And I mean, it wasn't like this was something that happened right out of the blue, because Christ almighty, like, not long after Dimebag passed, the talks had already started, you know, who could replace him, that sort of a thing. And then Vinnie goes, and then that became a question. So we had it, it happened. And the lead up to it was enormous. And the fact that not a whole lot was said about it. There were a lot of questions, a lot of mysteries leading up to it. But it happened, and we saw it. And the other thing too, though, is that, like, there were a lot of feelings and opinions associated with it, you know? If you were behind it, if you were supportive, that was a beautiful thing. And if you were on the other side, if you hated the idea of it, if you talked shit about it, if you slammed it, in my opinion, that was a beautiful thing too. Because, like, altogether, those opinions, those feelings existed, period. And it was just, and it's a cool thing that we got the opportunity to, you know, have those slugfests, and people talking shit, and then other people saying, like, you know, no, listen to me, no, fuck you, right? Like, it was something that it was emotionally charged, all that type of shit, man. But it happened, and I was supportive from the get-go. Let's put it this way, I thought it was cool. Yes, I was supportive because I thought it would be cool. Because, you know, it was like, it got my noggin jogging. Got me thinking, it's like, all right, so they're gonna have Zakk. I think Zakk can probably, you know, I'm spitting out stuff that, like, you know, this is nothing new. All these questions, all this talk, this discussion, this debate has already been there for the last, like, I think, what, 4 months since they announced it. But all right, man, I thought it was special. It was special because I only got to see him once, OG Pantera, and it was one of those performances that I will not forget. No fucking way, you know. And I think a lot of other people, if they got to see them, same thing. Just wasn't a band. They were a special band, man. They were a special band. Of course they were. So it's like, all right, I think that, like, other than Phil, you had Zakk, right? And Zakk with BLS has always been, he's been the star, you know, he's been the focal point. I mean, all right, like, there's always that thing about, like, oh, the drummer, all the connotations that come along with being the drummer. So with Charlie, all Charlie really could, like, bring to the table as far as, you know, what he'd add to the spirit of this 2022 Pantera was his drumming ability. That's it. He was not really able to contribute to the reputation, you know, of Pantera. And what I mean by that is, like, Vinnie was known for being a wild, crazy maniac. Just like Dime, just like Phil. I mean, you know, Rex too. If you've seen the home videos, yeah, Rex was pretty rambunctious. Rambunctious Rex at times. Rex rambunctious. That's stupid, man. So all Charlie could really bring to the table was his drumming ability. And it was kind of the same thing with Zakk too, because, like, this wasn't really Zakk's show like BLS is, you know? But the difference this time around, let's just focus on Zakk for a second. This had to have been very special for Zakk. Emotional, Because number one, his name was attached to the hypothetical who can replace Dimebag forever. So he had to live up to that. And all right, let's talk about that for a second. How he pulled it off live. It wasn't a carbon copy of Dimebag. It wasn't. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. I mean, he didn't play Dime's guitars, right? He played his own. So I think it sounded like if Pantera replaced Dime with Zakk, which they did, and I think that idea was like on display. Zakk did very, very well. I'm not like a very proficient in guitar. My knowledge is not all that deep. It's not all that like technically nuanced or anything like that. So I can't tell you if he was awesome. He sounded great to me. He sounded fine to me. But like Zakk's face though, I'm just gonna assume for a second he wasn't on stage thinking, hey, after this performance, we're gonna get paid, we're gonna get paid big time or whatever it is, let's throw that out the door for a second. I mean, he looked serious, the few times that they really showed close-ups of Zakk's face, he looked serious. He looked like he was there, to get a job done, but he probably thought, I'm confident enough in myself to get the job done. So, whether he was gonna nail it or not, that was probably in the back of his head because, playing the songs, doing what he was there to do was probably second nature by that point that he got on stage. So I think for him, it was probably like, it was probably in line with everything that he said in the interviews about it. I am there to honor my close, brother, as he referred to Dimebag so many times. I'm there to honor him. I'm there to pay tribute. And you saw that in Zakk's face. At least that's what I think was probably going through his head. So Zakk, man, Zakk laid it down. Charlie, same thing, Charlie smiles. He looked like he was up there and he was happy to be doing it. And that made me feel good. So, Zakk and Charlie, I think, probably had their own versions of what they were there to do and what they were there to feel. And it made me happy to know that what was going on that stage was authentic. It was emotional for them. Probably. Again, I'm not in their heads, I don't know. But I'm just like, I went back and forth because I tried to think, it's like, all right, is this a payday for them? I don't think so. I don't think it was. Because I think those guys are far enough into their career where they can say like, all right, yeah, money, we're all set with money. So now we're doing the cool shit. We're doing the cool shit that like we only dreamed of as kids. Yeah, they had their own music and their own bands and stuff, but it's like, this is something different. This is something that's unique. It's special. I can't say a whole lot about Rex because I feel bad, He's never really been like in the spotlight. The camera's never really been on him too razor sharply. Well, it has been at times in the home videos. So I think that's it. If you haven't seen the home videos, and you want to learn a little bit more about Rex. Well, first off, his book. I liked his book a lot. I thought his book was great. Phil referred to his book as, I think he famously said, there's a lot of mythology. That's a funny way to say somebody's full of shit. Just by saying, they're just, they're guilty of like telling mythology or making, whatever. But I got a feeling that it was probably the same for Rex. He's up there and he's probably thinking about the last 20 years of his life, the last 30, 40, both on the road and then when he split from the guys. It's a funny thing in his book too, because he says that when he left Down, there's a line in the book where he says something like, that was the last time I will have played with Philip and Anselmo, and that was a little bit depressing to read. I read that, I'm like, fuck, man, because he made it out like he was now on a different like plane. And to me, Pantera has always been and will always be eternal. And I think it's probably the same for a lot of fans. I mean, that's kind of how it is with, anybody's favorite band, maybe. That's why, man, I'm like, fuck, dude, I Kiss, End of the Road thing. Man, that's going to be a separate video, separate issue. I'm going to have a hard time with reading Kiss Was on their Wikipedia. Fuck, man. But now on to Phil. Look, man, Phil, to me, is a complex guy. He's said a lot of things in interviews and stuff that I was surprised to hear. He's deep. That's my impression. He's very, very deep. I mean, like, read the lyrics read the lyrics in a lot of Pantera songs and a lot of Superjoint songs, and in Down too. You read it and you're like, damn, man, that's like some kind of poetry, you know? That's some sort of, that's deep, man. That's complex. There's a lot of shit that I don't understand. It's fucking, call it what you want. Call it like abstract, call it esoteric, call it confusing. I don't know, you know? So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is it's tough for me to imagine, to think, to contemplate what was probably going through Anselmo's head. I don't know, man. I don't know. My guess, my hope, and he seems like a pretty genuine, authentic guy, is that that it was emotional for him too, that it was special for him as well. But no, man. Oh, all right. So I guess on to the actual beyond the playing. Let's talk about that for a second, dude. Until this, and I wasn't there. I wasn't at the show. I could only go by the videos that I saw. But I thought the fucking gold standard of like live stimulation was, and I've said this before in other videos, probably getting old and tired by now, is I thought the gold standard when it came to all that stuff was any performance at Mandalay Bay. I've been there for Psycho. It's the only Psycho 21, and the lights were just crazy there. However, with this one, Jesus Christ, man, with Pantera the other day in Mexico, the fucking lights were really, really impressive. Oh, and that makes me think of something else really important. What would Vinnie and Dime have thought of this? All right, if you take away the way that things went down leading up to the disintegration, I think they would have been really impressed. I think they would have been really happy, because the reason I say that is those dudes were like fun-loving guys. Now, yes, Pantera had songs that lyrically were really depressing, were really dark and fucked up and all that kind of stuff. But when you looked at their live performances, those guys, Vinnie and Dime, wrote nothing but smiles, and it's probably because they were big. You know, they loved Van Halen, they worshiped Van Halen, and the lights and the stage set and the shit they had on there, the fixtures and all the stuff playing on the screens and everything, it was cool, you know, it was next level stuff. It was stuff that wasn't available in their day, and it was most recently, I think that wasn't for a long time, those like laser style lights were banned, and didn't that have something to do with like Blue Oyster Cult? Like somebody got they got like fucking their eye burned out or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think Vinnie and Dime were looking down on that and thinking, damn, those boys, they pulled it off. They pulled it off, and they did it well. So I think Vinnie and Dime were, they would have been really impressed with it. I don't know, man. It was emotional for me. And you know what? I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm proud to say that. Yes, it was only a musical performance that I wasn't a part of. I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't my band. But I'm a fan, you know? I have been a fan for years, for fucking years, man. And that to me was something. That performance to me was like, it was special. Because it also made you... If you've been in the game for a long time, all right, if you've been a fan of Pantera, if you've been a metal fan for, you know, I fucking don't like saying my age, I'm 40. Ugh. I'm one of those people that will go down fighting, clinging on to my youth, all right? Fucking, that's how it is, okay? I'm gonna be young till death, I swear to God. Even when I'm not, you know, even when I'm not. And by that, I just mean like, you know, when it's obvious, oh yeah, that guy, he's up there, right? So it forced you to remember all the times you listened to Pantera, and if you've seen them live, you know, it forced you to remember that and to think, you know, to think about the last 20 years that they haven't been around, and what's gone on in your life, and how your feelings have changed about things, how your outlook has changed. And you thought about, you know, when Pantera was a band, and just how fucking huge they were, and how much you loved them, and all that sort of shit. I guess maybe that happens like when any big band like reunites after a long time. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of my age a little bit, but I didn't care. Not in a bad way, man. Fuck that, dude. Because today, I'm the same, I think, as I was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The same fucking nutcase like any other metalhead who loves metal and is passionate about it. Any of that shit, man. And I hope that if you watched it, it was like that for you too. I hope you found something in it that made you happy. Hopefully that didn't make you sad. It'd be interesting to know if there were people out there that were angered by this performance. I mean, yeah, I know that, like, again, there were a lot of strong opinions. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it blasphemy? That kind of thing. But again, though, I go back to what I said before about if you were in favor of this thing, and if you were excited about it, and if you were on the other side, if you were just so put off and offended by the idea that there could be something called Pantera without Vinnie and Dime, and you talked shit about it, and you slammed it, and you fucking, like, you went head to head with other people on the other side. I think that's beautiful too, because it's just cool, man, that, like, we had the opportunity to do that again. There are people that, when Pantera was around, that said they suck shit, you know, there's people today say the same thing, but we're there again, and we're in like a revamped version of that, because this time it is what it is. So yeah, man, it was fucking cool. I thought it was really, really cool, but you know, I thought it was cool from the get-go. I wasn't disappointed in the least bit. I was impressed. They exceeded my expectations. I'm glad that they played Use My Third Arm. I'm glad that they played Drag the Waters. I didn't think they were gonna play either of those, so it's fucking cool that they did. Fucking trying to think of any kind of final notes here before I wrap this up. Things that are gonna piss me off that I forgot afterward, after I hit stop. I don't know, man. There's a long way to go. They got a lot of dates that are scheduled, and I hope to catch some of them, at least one. Because I know, man, I'm a fucking nutcase. When I see one of my favorite bands live, I'm annoying shit, and I feel bad for the guy over here, and, you know, there in front of me, the back of me, all that kind of shit. I feel bad, because I can't control it, dude. You put me in front of Kiss, you put me in front of Maiden, I'm screaming my head off. And it was the same way when I saw Pantera that first time, that only time. Fuck, man. It was cool, man. It was cool. I just want to know this. The question for me is this. Am I going to be able to contain myself? Or is it going to be like the first time I saw Pantera, the first time I saw Kiss, 96 on the Live Worldwide tour. I didn't really see much of Deuce, because my fucking head was just up and down the whole time. I didn't really see much of Domination. Same thing, man. Fucking head just like going crazy, and then the next morning, fuck! Man. That's funny shit. All right. Stay metal. Stay death metal. Stay rock. Stay normal. Stay rap, whatever. Fucking just stay. Why not, you know? You ought to, you know? You ought to. You don't have to. You should. You should, because you know what? If you didn't a while back, hey, you might not have gotten to have seen what we saw last night. If you liked it, you know, then there's your reason. Something like that, right? All right. Yeah, I would say let me know your thoughts, but there's a lot of, everybody's putting their thoughts out there, and that's cool. That's fucking cool, dude. I'm glad, man. I'm glad. But yeah, no, if you haven't, or whatever, you just want to say something, yeah, let me know. Let me know. If you like the video, yeah, man, maybe you'll give it a like. And if you like hearing somebody bullshit about metal, then fucking hit the subscribe button, man. All right, stay metal.